So I just tried to do my first movement or first real moving on my body today. I went outside for fresh air 5 minutes ago. But I'm gonna explain how this having this disorder and not having proper documentation is gonna get me hurt or kill me or get me in trouble just because I'm disabled. So I went down the flight of stairs and I had a little trouble. I was grabbing onto the baluster and I'm going down. I make it outside. I only shook a little bit, not too bad. It's a little chilly out for me. I mean, yes, this is the type of weather that triggers it. And I've only done a little bit of stretching for about 2 hours this morning. But I made it down. I sat on a wooden thing and I got fresh air. Then I tried to make it back in. I got up 5 steps, turned to right, then I got to my steps. I got almost to the top before I started shaking. My legs gave out and I had to sit on the steps. Okay. Most people go, okay, not a big deal. You sit down on the steps, you wait a second, you get your bearings, you try to work your strength back up, you get back up, you come inside. That's fine if I have an apartment building or if I'm living here or something like that. But let's say now that I'm in a shelter or I'm in some public area and I'm going up a flight of stairs, my legs shake, I fall to the ground, and I'm on a step. And I'm trying to get my strength to go back up. And now a staff member comes up behind me and tells me, get up, I need you to go up. There's other people downstairs waiting to go up. Go up, go up, go up. So he's asking me to cure my disability in less than 30 seconds. He's also discriminating against me for being disabled. And then I try to get up, I shake, I fall back down, I shake, I fall back down. I try to get to the top of the stairs, I get out of the way. And he says, that's not good enough. You can't just be out of the way. You need to get up and get moving. Then they'll scream at me, they'll call the police, or they'll say, where's your documentation? If you're so disabled, where's all your documentation? At this point I'll say, I'm trying to get it with doctors as we speak. And I'll be probably crying because now I know I'm going to get arrested, or they're pulling on me, or they're trying to pick me up and bring me to a place. And then I start seizing even more because physical contact shoots nerve. It's like lightning. If I'm shaking on the ground and you come over and touch my hand, it shoots lightning from my hand up my arm into my spine and then spreads out like I just got tased. So if I'm seizing and I'm sitting down trying to get my bearings back and you touch me, then it gets full blown shaking, seizing. It looks like I'm getting tased. It feels like I'm getting tased. And a lot of times I go unconscious and I have a full blown seizure and I wake up in the hospital with welts all over me, skin removed, stitches on my face, my head sore from a bunch of hits to the head. That's what happens. Now you would think after one time, oh, then this won't happen again. You'll have documentation, right? Wrong. They just give you a piece of paper that says head injury, seizure, and then they release you to have it happen to you again and again and again and again. And the reason for this is you have to establish this disability with a neurologist, with a primary care. You have to spend like 5 to 10 years going over it. And that could be even longer for me because I have an old Social Security case that my father collected in my name, and they basically told everybody not to listen to me. That's basically what they told everybody. Just, oh, Zach's mental and don't listen to anything he's saying. Just ignore all his physical disabilities. That's a little bit summed up a little too well, but that's basically what it says. Just blame it on him and just do whatever you want to him. Torture him, beat him, grab him, throw him, arrest him, do whatever you want to him. And whenever I'm in these situations where I'm like stuck on a flight of stairs and I tell people, oh, this is just my seat, I'm trying here, let me get out of the way for you. No, 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 get up and get all the way up. And they expect me to be cured right that minute, because if it is a mental disorder, then I can just snap out of it, right? But that's the thing, it's not a mental disorder, it's a physical body disorder. It's in my nervous system, and I've been dealing with it for 25 years. 25 years I've been dealing with this. And it gets worse every year, and the more I trigger it, the more seizures I have, the more apparent and the worse it gets. So they expect it just to go away in 30 seconds. But the problem is because this has been going on for 25 years, it's not going to go away unless you have a cure for me in your hand, unless you have some treatment for seizures in your hand. This is not going away just because you're yelling at me. Yeah, that might work for some of the crazy people you deal with. Maybe some of the stubborn people that want to play games. Yeah, that will work. You know, if they're playing games and you scream at them and tell them you're calling the cops, all of a sudden they get up and get moving. But me, I'm not able to do that. You're going to get me arrested, you're going to get me hurt, and you're going to discriminate against me because I'm really disabled and I don't have proper documentation. This has been going on with me for 25 fucking years. And I've been hurt after hurt. I've been abused. I've had people just take everything from me. And it all started with my mother taking my health. She OD'd and she wanted to use my name. Many people have used my name, by the way. My father used my name for Social Security. My mother used my name and called me psycho and tried to come up with a bunch of different stories. She also spread lies about me constantly, telling everybody that I stole my own medal I won in swim class, telling everybody that I drank alcohol when really she was the one who drank it, and she admitted to this later, after I cried myself to sleep for weeks. She would make up all these different hurtful stories about me and then spread them to the doctor as well. Keep that in mind. She wanted me to seem psychotic so she could collect money from Social Security and then get rid of me when I'm 18. All of this was a plan of hers. So when you keep this in mind, then you know that somebody was just using my name. My mother was using my name for her own purposes. My father used my name so he could collect money and not take a loss for having a child. Then, after that, other people decided to use my name. I had Georgie use my name on an electric bill I still owe for. I had a phone scammer tell me they were going to get me some cell phones, and then they used my name somehow. I don't know why they put down like 1,000 or a bunch of money too. But I don't know why they put down all that money and then just dropped me off and took everything. But they used my name for cell phones. People are used to using me. I even had a guy named Kenny steal my ID, and that happened a lot. People would steal my identification a lot, my wallet, my ID. And he went to some like hotel and broke a lamp or something. I don't know. I got the message when I went in trying to stay myself. Then they wouldn't let me in. They said I stayed before. I was like, I've never stayed at hotels. What is this guy? I think it was Hotel 66 or something. I'm like, I've never stayed here in my life. What do you mean I owe you money and I can't come in? They said, you broke a lamp. I said, I never broke any lamp. And then I talked about it with Kenny, who had my ID. I said, did you use my ID at some hotel? He goes, yeah, we broke a lamp and we're sorry about it. I go, oh. So he apologized at least. At least he owned his mistake and apologized for using my ID and using my name. So I forgive him completely for what he did. He stole my ID, he broke a lamp in a hotel, he even returned the ID weeks later to me. So he returned my ID and he admitted that he used it. So that's good enough for me. But I can't, he used my name too. But people are used to using me. I spent 25 years getting used up. I was used as a lightning rod in my family to take all my mother's abuse and her mental illness. Instead of people trying to get her help, her mental illness was projected onto me. I was made fucked up. I was made disabled. And that kept everybody else in check. It kept everybody from knowing my problems, issues. If I wasn't there, my nephew would have been in danger. My father and his wife's and my mother's marriage would not work out. They would have definitely seen her mental illness a lot more because she wouldn't have had me to blame. She wouldn't have been able to control herself. I know that for sure. So I was a lightning rod for the family. I was used up in many different ways. I was used up also in the programs. If I got something really nice like an iPod, it never lasted even 7 days. People would just take it from me because the staff didn't care. My parents didn't care. Nobody cared who used me or who stole from me or what happened to me. When I was in New Mexico, I had seizures. I was choked. I was fed poisonous food. Did I get any help with that after? No. My father sued, got money for himself to recoup his losses, just like in Social Security. He used my name to recoup his losses. When I got abused, he went to court not so he could get money to give me a better future, so he could recoup the losses that he paid to put me in there. He paid, put me in a place where I got abused, and then he recouped his losses and then just found more places for me to get hurt. It was always about him recouping his losses of money. Everything's always about money with him. Everything. Everything's always about recouping losses or going into denial. He's a great guy. He gave me a lot of great ideas. He helped me with a lot of great advice. He taught me some skills. His son, my brother Tim, taught me a bunch of skills, like working skills. They taught me how to mow a lawn. They taught me how to paint. They taught me how to clean. They taught me how to do all these things. So, yeah, I learned a lot of skills from them. But that one thing I had to be careful not to learn is their greedy behavior. Or my mother, I had to look out, because there was a lot of messed up stuff. Like, she tried to get me to give another child some pills. She was giving me all different types of pills. She was saying things like, I'm an adult, so I don't have to take responsibility for my actions. When she was drinking downstairs, her exact quote when she got caught, because I was crying myself to sleep for weeks because I never did it. Don't get me wrong, after that I did drink before, but this was just out of the blue. I came back from the program, and all of a sudden I'm being screamed at, I'm being talked to about it. And then after weeks of crying, knowing it wasn't me, my mother admitted, no, it was me. I drank the bottle downstairs. I'm sorry that I did this. And then I said, I knew it. At this point, this is what my mother said after admitting that she was the one drinking the bottles of booze. She said, I am an adult. I don't have to take responsibility for anything. I could have left the blame on you. And that was her mindset constantly. She also called me lesser than a dog. She also used to treat me like a pet or an animal. She also tried to make me out to be disabled or crazy or mental all the time to try to get Social Security established. These are serious problems, and now I'm going to die from it. Now it's time for me to die and suffer from somebody else's actions. Now, if my liver fails, that's probably my fault. I caught hepatitis in a shelter. I guess I wasn't careful. I was making my bed on a cot, and somebody backed up into me with their backpack. There was a needle sticking out of their backpack. They stabbed me with it on accident. The guy apologized, but I caught hepatitis about that same time. About a year later, I tested positive. But I usually tell people it's drugs anyways, because I was a drug addict and I don't want to explain to people all about this stuff. So it's much easier just to blame it on myself and say it was my drug addiction, and it could have been. It could have been related to my drug addiction. So I blame, if it's my liver failure, that has nothing to do with my father. If it's my GI or my bathroom issues that I fail, like if I have to put a catheter up my dick every day, that's probably from my cough medicine abuse. That's something that I can go to the doctors, tell them, hey, I took cough medicine as a child, lots of it. I was about 16 years old. I only lasted for a couple years where I really abused it. I mean, I obviously have taken cough medicine since then when I have a flu or cold or when I have allergies or something like that, but I take the regular dose. And I don't really do that anymore. I haven't taken any cough medicine in, I don't know, years and years and years and years. I'm usually more of a natural alternative guy now. But anyways, so if my GI or bathroom issues get worse, I can deal with that because it's something that I did or something that I can explain to the doctor. But this 25-year-old neurological disorder, the one that's killing me, the one that's doing the most damage to my body, the one that's hurt me the most for 25 years, the one that has the least amount of documentation too. Keep that in mind. My hepatitis has been documented. My bathroom issues have been documented. Me admitting to using cough medicine, I've admitted that for over 15 years. That's nothing, or yeah, let me see, the first time was I was 16. Yeah, about 15 years I've been admitting that I took cough medicine that day. So those have been documented, as well as if I need treatment, it wouldn't be that hard to get it. But the neurological disorder, the seizures, the lack of movement, the lack of a coordination, the fact I can't feel my skin normally, the fact that I seize and shake, the fact that my limbs and everything shake, the fact I can't walk sometimes, the fact that I lose the ability to speak, the fact that after a seizure I look like a totally different person because I can't talk. I'm not like I need an ambulance. And that's not exactly how it is, but it's something like that. That's how I sound after a head injury and after my seizures. And it stays like that for sometimes a month to 3 months. I also can't walk. I have to train myself to walk all over again. As well as I lose my wages during this. So when I can walk, as soon as I can talk, I have to work like 60 hours. I got to double time my efforts, and I got to put my body in the more danger to make sure I can make up for the lost time. Now, most people are probably thinking, well, why aren't you on Social Security? I should be, you're absolutely right. But the reason why I'm not is because my father already collected Social Security in my name, and he gave them inaccurate information. Him and my mother went to get Social Security way too early with not knowing a fucking thing about me. My mother just made up a bunch of stuff. She went to doctor after 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 doctor to make sure that they would just write down whatever she said. It wasn't like we really established any care with any real doctors. There was only one doctor, a psychiatrist called Dr. Rosenblum. And really, we just drove all the way to Boston, and most of the time he didn't really hear me out very much either. He told me I should go and masturbate. That was what he said. Maybe if I go masturbate, I'll be better. Yeah, that's not exactly the best cure. Yeah, that might help you with some things, but masturbation is not a cure for me. And whenever I try to talk about that night, whenever I try to talk about that I had issues with my actual adopted mother, my mother would say, no, it has to do with this biological mother. Where are you getting that from? Yeah, that happens to people. People have issues with abandonment, absolutely. But I processed that before I was even 10 years old. I did too. And I forgave my biological mother because I figure it's a good thing that she did that. She made a good choice. She was too young. She was 15. She had no home, no job, no money. There's no way that she could raise a child, my biological mother. So she made a good choice. I have no hurt feelings about what she did. But drugging me, making me disabled, the fact that I might have a head injury today, the fact that when I lose my apartment I can't drive or own a car because of this neurological disorder, the fact that they didn't get it reported and they totally dodged the question when I brought this up at the doctor, the fact that my mother told me to shut up about it and not talk about my real disability, the fact that when I did bring it up that she covered it up with a bunch of stories and she dodged responsibility and deflected the questions, that's a serious problem. And I have to live with that. I have to live with the fact that I'm going to die because of somebody else's choices. My mother made several choices from the age of 5 all the way to 19, and those choices affected me in ways that are permanent. I should be on Social Security, but it's going to be very difficult because of what my mother and father did with Social Security. Now, I've never collected Social Security. I've never really even, I've tried to do the process, but it's very difficult when you're moving from place to place to place to place. But I now have to deal with the fact that my mother and father made a choice, made statements to Social Security, and now that interferes with my ability to do stuff now. I also have to live with the fact that my body is going to keep on freezing up. I'm going to keep on having seizures. I'm going to keep on having pain for the rest of my life from my mother's choices. That's why I'm going to have to be in pain. That's why I'm going to suffer. That's why I'm going to die 40 years before I needed to. My life is definitely cut short thanks to my mother. These are choices my mother made. Also, why can't does anybody not believe me? Why, when I don't have documentation, why does it take so long for doctors to really write stuff down that I'm telling them? Because in the past, my mother said I'm just some storyteller, that I'm psychotic, that I'm crazy, and not to listen to me. Well, when your mother says that, for many, many years, the Social Security, that you're crazy, that not to listen to you, not to, that he's a liar, all these type of things. Of course, when you go to the doctor telling them what's wrong with you, they might need a lot more. They might need 10 years of suffering before they put it on paper. These choices that my mother and father made and are still making today affect what happens to me day to day. Now, I'm sober, I have a job, I have an apartment, I've done everything I'm supposed to. I'm also super religious. I help other people as a side job. But I get put into dangerous situations all the time thanks to my mother and father. Things that normally would be normal for you or anybody else is not normal for me. Walking up a flight of stairs after being in the cold, walking on the side of the road at night when flashing lights are going by, having to drive a car. Like most people my age drive a car, or if they lost their apartment, they just could move into a car. But I can't do that because of my mother's choices. She decided to destroy my body. And I know because of that I shouldn't drive. I could never put anybody else in danger. Not in my life. I would never be willing to put anybody else in danger, no matter how much I die, no matter how much I suffer. I would never be willing to put somebody else in danger. And anybody who sees me day to day knows if I drive, that would be a bad thing to do. That would be a bad choice. Anybody with half a brain would know that if you're seizing, if you're shaking every morning, if you can't walk and you have to stretch every morning just to walk down a flight of stairs, if your arms and legs twitch on a regular basis for 25 years, then you probably should hold off on driving until you have that handled. But if you, yeah, my mother and father's choices are going to get me killed. And there's nothing much more I can do about it except for continue seeing the doctors, continue working really hard, pray to the Lord for help, and continue doing good deeds so my karma and the Lord sees me as the good person I am. And that's about all I can do. And if I lose my apartment, then I have to make a hard choice. I got 3 choices: die in the woods, die in a shelter, or go to a shelter in a warmer climate, and maybe I survive. And if I do that, I have to restart. If I take a Greyhound to a warmer climate, I have to restart with the doctor. I have to restart with Social Security. I have to restart everything. That means another 10 years restart, because I'm about 4 years in now sober with the doctor. I'm about 8 years in with drinking here and there. Because when I moved up to New Hampshire, I was drinking once in a while. Like if I had to go out into the woods on a hike, then I might bring a beer with me. Or if I had to walk up the street or something like that for 3 miles during winter, I would probably drink a small beer before I leave. Doing that allowed me to really not have a seizure while facing seizure activity and triggers. They call it seizure triggers or things like that. Like flashing lights are a seizure trigger, something that triggers your seizures. Loud noises, touch, cold. These are things that trigger my seizures, and I should be very careful about, as well as stress. But God, I've been stressed my whole life. I've had mothers take my medals away and tell me that somebody else's. I've had people lie about me and make up stories about me. I've been smacked in a car. I've been hit with rulers. I've had shoes thrown across my face. I've had drugs thrown in my body where in the middle of the night I think I might die because all these pills my mother gave me is making my heart go out of control. My head hurts. I'm feeling so lethargic and I feel like I'm going to die and never wake up. This was happening to me night after night after night after night, and I would come to my mother and tell her, I got a hangover, I think these meds are affecting me in bad ways. Even when the depression came in, I told my mother about that. But instead, she told me, don't blame the medicines, and then just walked away. That's what I got. She never wanted to report the side effects of the medications. If anything, she wanted to report the side effects as permanent problems with me. Like if I was sad or feeling depressed from a pill she was giving, like 9 different pills she was giving me, and if I was hungover in the morning with headaches, she would just tell the doctor, I think Zach has chronic headaches, and I think Zach has a depression disorder. And instead of telling her anything to do with the medication or side effects, she would push this as a permanent disability because it would help her establish Social Security. Because if it's a medication side effect, then they just get rid of the medication, and that's no good for Social Security. But if she can establish depression as a permanent disorder, then she gets Social Security. But then I have to be drugged for the rest of my life. She didn't think about the choices she was making. And now I have to make choices that are hard, and I have to die and suffer because of her choices. And I will. I eventually will die an early death. There's nothing. I've already had so many close calls. I'm lucky to be alive today. I've been frozen to death. I've been robbed. I've been robbed at knife point. I've been found in the woods several times unconscious. I've been found on the side of the road several times unconscious. I've had at least 18 seizures. I've had cars run over my hair and almost miss my ear by a centimeter because of a seizure I had on the side of the road walking home. I had a seizure when I woke up. A tire was pulling on my ear as it went right by. And the reason why I had a seizure that day is you got to keep in mind my triggers. I had 3 different triggers that day. I was walking home from the golf I worked at because it was during COVID, the beginning of COVID, and there was no transportation, and this was at night. It was at about 9 or 10 when I locked up the business because I worked by myself, and I'm walking home. So I'm walking home at night. The bright lights are going light, 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 light past me. Bright, 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 bright light past me. Bright, 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 bright light past me. So light after light, it's like a flashing car, like, the headlights. They come at you, and then they pass. And then they come at you, and then they pass. But that's not it. When the car goes past you, you hear, wow, wow. So you're seeing lights flash. You're having a loud noise next to you. And to top it all off, it was cold this night. So I'm starting to shiver. I'm starting to really have a lot of problems with the cold, even though I've known that since I was 5 years old. My family's known that. My family has known that I have problems with cold weather and fall, winter, and spring for 25 years. My family has known that I have a problem with cold. They just never wanted to look into why that is, even though I was telling my mother and father why that is. I was bringing up this night that I OD'd when this all started. But nobody wanted to have a discussion about anything. It was much easier just to take my medals away, blame me, make up a story in their head and spread it. It was much easier to do those type of things. But anyway, so I had a seizure from the lights, flashing, the headlights, the loud noise, and the cold. I woke up on the side of the road on the cement. I was scratched up a little bit. My head was just a little sore that time. Luckily, it looked like I didn't slam my head too hard that time. I don't really know because I go unconscious. But then I feel something pull on my hair. And I look, and I don't really look. I just kind of listen and turn. But it's a car wheel. Woo! Pulls on my hair. Literally a centimeter from my ear. At this point, I try to crawl a little bit away from that. And then I try to stand up. It takes me about 30 minutes to get standing up or moving. And I'm really on my knees. I'm not fully standing up. I'm more kneeling. And then I, kind of crawl or get moving and I get home. I've been doing this for 25 years, crawling, falling, getting hurt, having seizures, having a seizure-like feeling go through my body, coordination issues, aversion from cold, tics, twitches, whatever you want to call it. It's been going on for 25 years. And my father and mother knew about it. They did. And I told my mother what was the cause. I brought up this night. I brought up this overdose that my mother gave me. But she wasn't going to admit to it. She wasn't going to let me go to the doctors and get this treated, because then she might get some type of problems come her way. Who knows what they would be. But if she admitted to what she did to me, then there would be consequences to her actions. And she wasn't willing to pay those consequences or take responsibility for her actions. So now I have to suffer. And my father, he witnessed so much of this shit, but he just wants to get drunk and run away. That's a way that some people deal with the tough things they have to deal with in their life. Their wife cripples your child. Well, much easier to run away from that, isn't it? Dealing with your crippled child after your wife cripples them, that's a hard thing to deal with. That's stressful. It's hard to admit that it happened. So he's never going to handle this. If he wasn't going to handle it when I was speaking up about it at the doctors at age 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, all the way up, if he wasn't going to handle it then, he's definitely not going to handle it now. He's going to run away. He's going to continue taking benzos and getting drunk. And he's going to continue sitting in denial. He might even bring nephews and nieces and other children into his house. He might even just pretend like nothing ever happened. And that's probably what he'll do at this point. And that means, what am I going to be doing? I'm going to be suffering and dying. I'm going to be having seizures on the side of the road. I'm going to be outside freezing to death. I'm going to be at work having a seizure behind my register. I'm going to have scars. I'm going to have my face stitched up. I'm going to have my ankles twisted. I'm going to have bruises all over my body. I'm probably going to bleed internally again. I'm going to find blood in all different parts of my body. And I'm probably going to be yelled at, and I'm probably going to be arrested or have people belittle me for being disabled. There's a lot of people who literally just belittle me and want to hurt me because I'm disabled. Well, get up and get moving. Get up and get moving. Get up and get moving. I'm trying here. I'm trying. Can't you see I'm trying? You got a cane or something I can put my weight on? Or can you help me up? And then they help me up and I start shaking, and then they let go of me. And then I fall back down. And then they call the police or an ambulance, and then they put me back. Or sometimes if it's not like an authority figure, sometimes people just grab me and pull me aside. Sometimes they drag me across the floor. And that's all because I don't have proper documentation. That's all because my mother and father decided they didn't want to deal with this. They didn't. They wanted to go along with a mental, made-up case. They didn't want to deal with my physical disabilities that were caused by my mother that I was speaking up about. See, my mistake is I told them the truth. When I went to the doctors, I said exactly what happened. I was given a handful of pills. I lost the ability to see. I lost the ability to walk. I lost the ability to feel. I lost the ability to talk. These are the exact same things that happen today. I lose the ability to talk. I lose the ability to walk. I lose the ability to feel my nervous system. Those things happen today just like they did at age 5 to 7. And I reported it right as it happened at age 5 to 7. Every single time at the doctor's, I reported it. I also told my mother that I know something's going on and this is my problem. But every single time she would just make an excuse. It's an allergy. Get over it. Don't talk about it. Stop talking about it. You're making me mad talking about this. So keep that in mind that she knew what I was talking about. So it was very easy for her to try to cover it up, as well as they kept me moving. I've said this many times. I grew up first in orphanages, then foster homes, then in Westford with my adopted parents. Then from Westford, I moved to Texas. Then from Texas, I moved to New Mexico. Then from New Mexico, I moved to Maine. Then from Maine, I moved to another place in Maine. Then from that other place in Maine, I moved to another place in Maine. Then from that place in Maine, I moved to Massachusetts. Then from Massachusetts and Chelmsford, I moved to Massachusetts and Haverhill. Then Massachusetts and Haverhill, I moved to Massachusetts and Lawrence. Then from Massachusetts and Lawrence, I moved to Massachusetts and Chelmsford. Then from Massachusetts and Chelmsford, I moved to Massachusetts and Lowell. Then from Massachusetts and Lowell, I moved to Massachusetts and Haverhill. Then from Massachusetts and Haverhill, I moved to Massachusetts and Lawrence. Then I went back to Lowell to handle this and get better. But at that point, I went to a rehab facility because I asked the emergency room to section me. I couldn't keep on treating this with alcohol. Every single time I felt the seizure activity coming, I would drink alcohol. And it was becoming a problem, so I asked the hospital to section me, thinking that maybe some of this would be figured out. While I was in this 3-month or detox, they ended up giving me a seizure medication called Triliptal. That was very helpful. And so if I never did that, I wouldn't have discovered that there's a seizure medication called Triliptal out there that's really helped my seizure activity. And I discovered that there. Then I went and spent a year in New Bedford. Then I spent from New Bedford, I spent a couple months with my father's new wife, his third wife, and him. But they were drinking, taking benzos, and they were just trying to do the psychotic behavior again. So luckily, I left there, and I ended up moving in with my brother. But he still knew nothing about really what was going on with me, or how to treat it, or what doctor to bring me to. So I willingly left because I love him very much. He was one of the best people in my life. He tried to warn me about what my mother was doing. He tried to warn my father to pay attention. His son was fucked up by my mother too, only in the way that he was afraid. When he was real young, he used to say that he was afraid to come over because of her. He was always afraid of her. There was just a bunch of stuff problems where he didn't like what she was doing to me. And that probably messed him up in the head a little bit too, but he can get over that. It's not anything that you can't get over. With me, this is permanent physical abuse and disabilities that I will have to live with for the rest of my life. 25 years of seizures and having a physical problem with your body, it's not going to be easy to fix. And I'm going to have to suffer greatly, especially with my father still sitting in denial. It's like, literally, this stuff happened right in front of him, and he doesn't want to pay attention. It's so obvious to me. It's so obvious to a lot of the family members. And when I describe what happened, when I tell people what happened, he gets mad, obviously. Like the fact that when she was going through liver failure, she was turning yellow. Only 20% of her liver worked. She spent a month in the hospital. They let her come home to see the family for one day. And not even 5 minutes in the door, she's in the liquor cabinet drinking. Does he realize that that's problematic? That means that she's an alcoholic? Does he acknowledge that that's a clear sign that she's an alcoholic? No. Does he take the alcohol away from her to save her life? No. Does he have a talk with her telling her what she's doing is wrong? No. I have to talk with him in the kitchen that it's wrong and that he needs to go over there and tell her not to drink, which he just goes over, tells her, can you stop drinking? And then walks away and she continues drinking. This is so crazy that I had to be the adult. I mean, these people are grown adults and these things are happening right in front of them, and then they go into denial. My father goes, well, she's not any alcoholic. What are you talking about? She was drunk all the time. She drank every day, and when her liver was failing, the first thing she did when she came home was go right to the liquor cabinet. That's an alcoholic, I know. Trust me, I have a degree in it. I've spent my whole life learning about addicts and how to handle addicts and what signs to look for. I know my mother was an alcoholic, and my father does have an alcohol problem too, but he can handle it. Honestly, my father is fine with alcohol. He drinks every day, what technically means you're an alcoholic. He cannot stop, and he drinks every day, and he mixes it with benzos now, and he even makes the statements, well, it didn't start like that. Or, well, I need it. Well, things like that make you an alcoholic, but he's okay. My father has never got violent. He only gets a little forgetful, stuff like that. You know, alcohol kills brain cells. You're not always the same person, but he handles it just fine. My father handles alcohol just fine, but he needs to come out of denial. That is a big problem. But my mother could not handle her alcohol. She was a raging evil alcoholic, and she would have these weird ideas, these weird mental illnesses, and then try to twist them or put them on me. And a lot of them got written down into stone, or a lot of people believed all her mental illnesses. When she would make up stories about me, stuff like that, tell everybody that the medal I won, I must have stole from an African American kid. That's messed up. That's a mental illness. I won a swimming medal in my orphanage. I'm trying to show you it, a real accomplishment of mine, and you take and steal my medal, then tell me that I must have stolen the medal, and then you try to just hide it and tell me that it must be an African American's kid because I must not be good enough to swim. That is a crazy thing to do. Or when I'm sleeping in the room across from her, I'm just sound asleep. All of a sudden, she wakes me up out of sleep. She tells me she's hearing people in and up the stairs and she's seeing people that aren't there. I tell her, Mom, there's nobody here. I've been sound asleep. No, you must have somebody here. I just saw them walking up and down. I saw people. Now, normally you would think, okay, well, maybe I had people over at night, but here's the thing. I never had a single friend over for 5 years prior to this night, during the day, night, ever. I never had any friends over. I always went to see them at their house. The reason why is my mother and father used to scare my friends away. So when she said this, when she was having this mental illness that people are up and down the hallway and she's seeing things that aren't there and she's hearing things that aren't there, it's very obvious that it's not anything to do with me, because I haven't had any company visit me in 5 years. Not a single friend of mine lives in the area. They all live in New Hampshire. They live in Lawrence or Haverhill, or they live in a program where they're locked into a unit. And none of them ever visited daytime or nighttime. And it was very obvious that this was at like 3 in the morning. She was ranting. She was just going psychotic again. She probably got drunk before she went to bed. Then when she was up, she was seeing things because it was affecting her mental illness. And then she just came in screaming, wanting to beat me or take it out on me again. This is very problematic. And it is. But you know what? I'm over that. But I'm not over getting injured because of her choices. I'm not over that. I'm still to this day getting seriously injured, getting seriously harmed, and my life is at serious risk because of my mother and father's choices. And I'm not over that. I'm over all the abuse. I'm over all the things, all the mental twisting. I'm over her making up lies about me. But what I'm not over is the fact that I'm still getting hurt because of my mother's and father's choices. And I'm also not over the fact that my father wants to continue some of these behaviors. He still isn't coming out of denial. He wants to continue making up stories. He wants to continue sitting in denial. Meanwhile, I slowly die and get hurt every single day because of his and his wife's choices. I made bad choices in my life too. I understand that. I mean, I took cough medicine at 16, and now I might have an enlarged prostate. Okay, I admit that's not good. If I have to put a catheter in every day to take a pee, that's something I'll have to deal with, but I only can blame myself, and I can get proper medical treatment. I can go into the doctor, tell them, hey, I took cough medicine at age 16. Could this be affecting my prostate, and that's why I have trouble peeing? And then the doctor can say, oh, we can do an x-ray. Hey, you do have an enlarged prostate. Well, this is what you need to take, this, and this. That's proper treatment. And that's because I know what I did, and I know when it started, and I know I can move on from it. But see, my neurological disorder, my seizures, all the scars on my body, the fact that cold flashing lights, all these things trigger it, that goes back to age 5 or 7, and somebody covered it up. So it's not as simple as I go to the doctor, tell them what happened to me, tell them when it started, and then I get treatment. It's not that simple, because my mother and father spent years covering their tracks and making sure that I could not get proper treatment. So what do I do at this point? I just keep on trying. I keep on working hard and hope for the best to work out. But most likely I will die. That's why I'm making these videos, is most likely I will die from this. What my mother did to me will kill me. It's already crippled me. I'm never going to be the same. I'm never going to get the use of my body back. Never will I be normal again. Every single seizure, it gets harder and harder for me to move my body. I'm more and more shaky. I have more and more problems talking. So for the rest of my life, I will be disabled because of what my mother did to me. And I will get worse and worse every single day, every single year. And the more seizures I get, eventually I'll be paralyzed. Or, the last time it took me like 3 months to walk again properly. As well as lots of people are going to belittle me. They're going to treat me awful because I don't have proper documentation of what's going on with me. So I'm going to be treated malpracticed as well. If I go to, let's say, the emergency room and I'm stuttering, going, I'm trying to, I need to talk to you. Well, if I'm talking like that, they're going to think it's just some mental illness and drug me and then send me out. They're not going to be able to, I'm not going to be able to tell them everything that's causing this seizure. I'm not going to be able to tell them why I can't talk or walk. So instead, they're just going to give me a bunch of drugs and send me on my way. That's malpractice. I have a real disorder that really needs to be treated, but I can't because of my mother and father's decision making. And that's a big problem. That's not anything I can control. It's not anything I can take responsibility for. All I can do is tell the truth about it and get recordings of it, because when I do end up losing the ability to talk permanently, once when my brain really gets fucked up, once when my speech never comes back, once when I'm in a wheelchair permanently for the rest of my life, the only way I can explain this is through these recordings. Because if I can't talk, if I can't walk, there's nobody else who's going to try to explain this to my doctors. Nobody else. They're all going to try to hide or try to run away, or they're going to try to not take responsibility for their actions. And they might even say, oh, well, we don't know. It's Zach's fault. Just deal with him. We got a vacation to go do. We got a cruise to get. So just do whatever you got to do with Zach and just let us go. That's what they're going to do. If I'm in a wheelchair dying and I can't talk and I'm like brain dead basically, and I, need medical care for what my mother did to me for 25 years of suffering, nobody's going to step up and tell them what was actually going on. So it's up to me to get recordings so that way the doctors know exactly why I'm now brain dead, they know exactly why I'm paralyzed and whatever. So this is very important to know and understand. But this is not right in any sense of the manner. We should not be allowing in society for the older parents who might be going mental to adopt a child, traffic that child around the country, and then cripple that child for Social Security, and then want to do nothing to fix it. That is not right. And doctors need to start listening to their patients. They do. Doctors need to start understanding and listening to their patients.